In 2023, we've seen some major changes on the E&M side, and fantastic news, by the way, because there's fewer code sets we have to deal with, and the documentation is much less than what it used to be, and it saves the providers about 45 minutes a day typically. And when coding time-based, all the time is counted that the providers spend on that data service. Okay, let's get into this right here on this mini webinar right here. In 2023, for almost all the places of services, we're going to be using either time or medical decision-making, whichever one is greater. If time gives you the higher one, great. If medical decision-making gives you the higher one, fantastic. Now, this applies, as I said, in almost all the places of service. Like in the hospital, those codes 99238 and 39 for hospital discharge, those are time-based only, so there's no medical decision-making to be counted. Or on ER visits, those are medical decision-making only. There's no time associated. But in everything else, in all the other places of service, it's either time or medical decision-making. Now, of course, you still got to document medical necessity. No matter what you do, you've got to show that it was medically important to be able to do it for the patient's care. Now, the times are going to differ, by the way, on Medicare and commercial insurances on the highest level. And when we get into the prolonged services, that'll make more sense to you. But notice that all the times have changed from what we were used to with the 9597. Because in 9597, everyone knew that 15 minutes was a 99213, 25 minutes was a level 4. But this has minimum and maximum time. So if, for instance, 20 to 29 minutes is a typical 99213. And these are threshold times, so you have to meet those. You can't say 19 minutes is close. Nope. 19 minutes would still be a level 2. Or 99215, 40 minutes to 68 minutes before you could actually bill out a prolonged service code in addition to the 99215. Where with CPT rules, those are a little bit different. And you might want to watch the prolonged service webinar sometime. This year, we also only have 4 localities rather than all of the others. We have office, which is place of service 11 or 22, hospital, which is again 21 to 22, in the emergency room 23, skilled nursing facilities is 31, but everything else is going to fall into the home or residence area, such as the rest home, domiciliary rest home and nursing home, assisted living facilities, campgrounds, and even cruise ships. Seriously? Yeah. Some patients have found out it's cheaper to live on a cruise ship 365 days a year, traveling around the world, than it is to live in an assisted living or a skilled nursing facility or rest home. So, wow. Anyway, all of those are going to be places of service 12s. That makes it easier with only 4 localities. And also, when we're counting time, you get to count all of the amount of time that the provider spends on that day. You say, you've repeated that already twice. That's because this is so important and so much different than 9597. Okay, so this right here is going to really help us. Yeah, big time. I love it. Like take, for instance, our slide rule that we developed to make it easy for you. The slide rules have one side slide out for home established, another slide out goes in the opposite direction for home new, or you flip it all the way over and you've got ER visits or consults, or you flip it inside out and you've got hospital and you've got office. So it makes it easy for you to be able to tell what has to be done. We have 4 levels of medical decision-making this year: straightforward, low, moderate, and high. That sounds a lot easier than we've had in the past. Yes. And we have 3 elements that have to be considered in each medical decision-making. The first one is the number and complexity of problems being addressed. The second one is the amount and the complexity of data that we're reviewing, looking at, and analyzing. And the third one is risk of complications and or morbidity or mortality of the patient management. And that's going to take into effect what the risk was of not only treating the patient, but if any medications were given to patients, et cetera, what kind of risk associated with those. So the reason we did this slide rule is to make it easy for you. So again, you have up here the number and complexity of problems. And these right here, it's the problems being addressed. That's quite a bit different than what we've had before with the 95 and 97. The amount and complexity of data being reviewed and analyzed, that's similar to what we had before, but this is even easier than it was before as well, because it breaks it out to the different categories like tests and documents and assessment requiring historian or a family member there to be able to give history on the patient. And then you go over to the risk of areas of mortality patient management of any kind of testing or treatment. What's the risk on that? Is it minimal, low, moderate, or high? And we're going to go into greater detail. The slide rule also has instructions here. If you ever just point your iPad or your phone to it, it'll take you automatically to a set of instructions how to use it. And it also has a place here that you can scan. It takes you to be able to calculate the prolonged service. You'll know which prolonged service codes to use. We have the codes at the top. We have the different areas of medical decision-making in the middle. And then at the bottom down here, we have the different time frames for the code sets that we're looking at. In this case right here, home established. And if you slide it, like I said, to the other side, and you're going to have home new. Pretty simple to keep the seeing right here easy. And by the way, this fits in your pocket too. This area right here in the risk area are examples only. It's not totally inclusive. It doesn't have them all. You say, well, what if I'm doing a parenteral of controlled substance? That would fall into the high area. Or if I'm treating a patient in the ICU for kidney failure, well, that would fall into this area right here as well. What if I'm just removing a splinter from a patient? That might be up here in the low areas. Again, these are just going to be examples only. And I'm sure you're going to come up with a lot more. So this is how easy it really is to determine your medical decision-making. And again, whichever one's higher, medical decision-making or time. And when you're selecting it based on medical decision-making, it's always going to be 2 out of 3 areas of the number of complexity of problems, amount and number complexity of data, and risk of complications. It's going to be the 2 highest areas. So say, for instance, you have a moderate area of number of complexity, you have a limited area of data being reviewed, and you have a moderate risk of complications and or morbidity and mortality, okay? That would be 2 out of 3 areas here, so that would give you a moderate level of medical decision-making, as in this case right here, a 99349. Well, let's say you have a straightforward level, a number of problems right here, and a limited level of data being reviewed, and a moderate level of risk. Well, the middle one would fall into that category of limited, so that would give you a low area of medical decision-making, and as you see here, that would be a 99348. It's really quite simple. We go into a lot of detail on each of these areas, giving you examples of patients in the hospital, commercial patients, and patients in Medicare that's in the nursing home, in the office, et cetera, on our full 1-hour webinar. You can download that at donself.com/shop. And yes, we have one of those right there with the CEU from the AAPC and AMBA both. What about prolonged service right here? Let's say we have a 65-year-old hospital Medicare patient. We have a separate prolonged service slide rule. One side is Medicare, the other side is commercial. One end is established patient, and the other end, if you slide this slide rule the other direction, would be new patient. Let's say the provider spent 88 minutes in that one day right here. So where does 88 minutes fall into in the hospital side right here? Falls right here. So you'd have 199233, highest level, hospital level visit code established, follow-up, and then 1G0316 if it's Medicare. If it was commercial, it would be a different code. That's why we have a different side for commercial. But that sounds easy also. We also have this on our website under prolonged services, free, and it's a free thing you can use right now on our website. We have both slide rules on our website. We have the one for the E&M slide rules, so in the hospital, office, et cetera, all of those. And then we have the Medicare commercial slide rule also on our website. If you like this right here, click and subscribe if you want us to keep making these kind of webinars. We would love to hear from you. Tell us what you think about these things. Are they helping you? Thank you for letting us be a part of your life today and helping you.